All right, Andy Broadway here, and welcome to the show. And as always, I love to bring really unique people, influencers, decision makers, people that have created massive companies and either built them and sold them. Well, today we've got a special guest here.
Adam Farfan.
Adam Farfan. So Adam Farfan, give us a little background. We always hear about those people that start companies with the intention of what we call start, flip, and sell, or whatever you call it. You've done it. You've done it a couple of times. The last time you done it, I'll steal a little thunder. His last company sold for $100 million, right? So I say that up front to get your attention. And so you're with somebody that's going to give you some. We're going to drop some knowledge bombs down here today, and he's going to tell you what he's up to now. But give us some background on you.
Cool. Hey, well, first of all, thanks for having me out here. I think I love what it is that you're doing, especially you're bringing so many people together to actually go ahead and bring what people really need to know and have that awareness about business. And one of the things that I would actually encourage you to do as you listen to guys like Andy would be, they actually say that a smart person learns from their mistakes, but a genius learns from the mistakes of others. And I think what I appreciate the most about what you're doing now is the fact that people can really learn from our mistakes that we've made or the things that we've messed up on again and again and again, and actually give you, for you to actually learn and implement those things in your life as well. But I actually, I can honestly tell you, I started in financial services when I was actually 16 years old. It wasn't because I was extremely smart or academically genius by any means. I grew up Mormon in Salt Lake City, Utah, of all places. And there was a guy that actually would go to my church, and he was the kind of guy that had his stuff together, right?
Right.
He had a nice home and the nice car and just the perfect family guy, right? Yeah. And I remember thinking to myself, gosh, I want that. I want that life when I grew up at that time, right? And it was kind of surprising because one day he actually walked into my parents' home, and he wasn't there to talk about church stuff. He was actually trying to talk to my dad about retirement plans and financial services and savings and all this stuff. To be completely honest, Andy, it all seemed really kind of dull and boring. But the moment that he actually told my dad it was actually the highest paid profession in the world, and all my dad needed to do was actually have a simple license that would take him a couple of weeks to do it, my ears went up, and I was like, holy crap, that means I don't have to go to school.
16 years old, not going to school, that's a good solution.
Myself, right?
Yeah.
So next Sunday, I actually went up to him, and he pulled me to his side, he's like, what's wrong? I was like, hey, there's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
I just want to learn about what it is that you're doing, because I want to do that when I grow up, right? Yeah. So he's like, well, you have to do this. And I was like, teach me what you know. I want to go to your house. I want to, can I come to your, I'm like, I'll clean your tables. If, he
sure.
kind of laughed. But I started going to his house every day. And that's where I learned about financial services and what his business did and stuff like that, and all that whole process of financial services. And to be completely honest, I got the beginning part of it. But my life really changed when I met my first millionaire mentor. This is a guy that expanded my vision, really took me to a whole new level of mindset. I learned $1 million habits and how to really build this in a big way. And he actually taught me a system. And I actually started implementing that in my own company, Brandman Financial. And, things that I learned from him and stuff like that. And even though I did some stuff with him on the side, it wasn't really much. But I started implementing that in my company. And then I started changing my social circles and stuff like that. And we kind of grew and stuff like that, and that's what we've done. So that's the kind of like the tip of the iceberg when it comes to my story. But really, what really changed everything for me was one person leading to another, right? Because the fact that it's not who you know, it's who do they know, right? So.
Right. And we've heard the rule, 6 degrees of separation. That used to be the rule.
Right.
I don't feel like it's a rule anymore.
Right. Absolutely.
I think it's 1-2 degrees of separation, right?
Right.
And especially how social media expands us and introduces you to other people. But now, just about every, you're an influencer. So I see you as an influencer.
Thank you.
I see you as someone that goes out there and teaches people and really gives them knowledge and wisdom and stuff because you've learned from other people's mistakes, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what we all do. So if there was some, drop me a couple of wisdom bombs. Like, what did you learn working with this guy that taught you how to make this $100 million and sell this company for $100 million? What are some of the key elements?
One of the things that I would actually tell you definitely was time management is the biggest thing that separates somebody from doing big things in their lives or somebody doing half things in their lives, right? Let me tell you what I mean by that is the fact that there's a huge difference, especially I see this so much between entrepreneurs. I would actually tell you, being an entrepreneur, this is the way that I think my own thoughts, right? It's really more it's a privilege, not a right. And the one thing that I would actually tell you is that most people feel like they're entrepreneurs, but I remember Gary Vee actually talking about this, where he says they're doing entrepreneurial things, right? You're not an entrepreneur. Most people don't know the difference between being busy and being productive. Two completely different things, and there's so many people out there running around, doing this presentations and all this different stuff, but they never really think about what are some of the things that are going to be my immediate income, right? Because unless you're making money doing what you're doing, it's more of a hobby, right? So therefore, the one thing that we definitely that I learned the most is what are going to be, I can be doing my, $10 an hour type of jobs, which could be my clerical stuff, or I can go ahead and be doing my $1,000 job things, right? And everything else hire out. I remember the first time ever that I remember my dad. My dad was a really great family guy, and I learned a lot of stuff from my father, from my mom, right? I remember going out. My dad was a credit card salesman, out there, when I was younger, and I remember doing this with them. And that's the one thing that I learned is just how efficient your time needs to be whenever you're actually working. And the reason why I would actually tell you this is because there's a lot of people that are going to be counting on you if you want to be a business builder, right? People are going to know, that especially if you're taking time away from your family, or you're taking time away from your spouse or your kids or something. Man, a lot of times I tell people, if they saw what it is that you really did in your, building time, would you be actually embarrassed about it, right? Because of the fact that, I remember, I'll never forget this. My dad was like a huge hero to me, right? Like my dad was like, oh my, I remember one time going out to one of his meetings that he had with his boss, and his boss like kind of told him the same thing that I'm telling you, right? Where it's like, what are you doing with your time? What are you doing that? And I remember my dad, he said to me, you're doing entrepreneurial things. You're not an entrepreneur until you master this, and this, and this. My dad was so embarrassed, but at the same time, I never forgot that lesson because of the fact that I think to myself, how many people out there are acting like they're building their business, they're doing things here in and out that are not really, changing your life in a big way.
Right.
That's why you see, for example, you've seen a smart person that's broke.
Yeah.
And you've seen a dumb person that's rich.
Yeah.
Right? And not only that, but the reality of it is that no matter who's watching this show, we all have 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
What matters is how you spend those 24 hours that ultimately will separate you from the rest. Doesn't matter your birthright, doesn't matter what your last name is, it doesn't matter any of those things. Whether you are, at this point in this world of abundance today, it doesn't really matter what your background is, it matters what you do with the time that you have right now. And that was a huge thing that I learned from my first mentor, just the time efficiency. It was just because it's bigger than what most people actually realize.
So give us an example of that. Like, what does your day look like? I mean, it's like obviously today we're doing an interview. We scheduled this ahead of time, but
right.
What does your average day look like?
So one of the things that I suggest people to do is actually break their days into 4 spaces. The reason why is because of the fact that unless you're doing something like a job or something like maybe you're like at a sweatshop or something where you're like just doing the same thing over and over again for 8 hours, your mind's really not that, your body might be busy, but your mind's even more just like you're not really there, right? So one of the things that I actually suggest to people that actually work for me is actually break my day into 4 days. So one day I'll have my day, that my first day, it starts from like 8 o'clock to like 11.
Okay.
Then I'll take a break for about half hour, then from like 12 to 3 o'clock. Right, and then from 4 o'clock to like 7, and from like 8 to 10 p.m.
Okay.
And what's interesting about that is the fact that whenever I have nothing to do, right, then that's really the time where I do it for myself, right? But if it's something else, you all have in your business, everybody has in their business what's called prime time.
Yeah.
Right, when you're going to get your most customers, or when you got to go ahead and do clerical stuff, and when you're going to do this. If you don't schedule it, that's one of the things that I've noticed. That's one of the things that I've always known. If you don't schedule it, it's not there. Right? I remember learning this from my mentor as well, because of the fact that I was like, going back to what I was talking about my dad wanted me to cut the lawn over at our house, right? And I remember I was doing stuff at that point where I was already making money, And I was like, I remember asking my mentor, I was like, hey, you know, what do I do about this? And I was asking him about it, and he's like, and at that moment, I'll never forget this, a lady comes in to actually clean his fish tank. And he's like, do you know why I have somebody else clean my fish tank? Because in that hour, 2 hours that I could go ahead and be cleaning my own fish tank, I could be making thousands of dollars doing this, and actually go ahead and, you know, hire out my things that I'm not, you know, the best at.
Yeah.
And at that moment I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. So I went out, I started making money. I paid somebody $30-$40 to do my dad's lawn. My dad was happy.
Yeah.
I was happy building my business, but I was actually productive. That's the difference, right?
Exactly.
So it was those little things really that I understood early on in my life.
Yeah.
As far as like, why is it important? Why certain people do the things they do? I was actually listening to an interview that Mark Cuban did, where it's like, who does your groceries? He's like, well, with Amazon and all those different things, I don't have time to be doing all this stuff myself. For example, for me, that's the case.
Yeah.
Right. Like I don't know when was the last time. You know, it's been years since I've actually even done my own bills. Right. Now, if you are not at that position just yet to go ahead and hire a maid or to go ahead and do this, what I would actually tell you is focus on doing the main thing is the main thing, right?
Yeah.
And how you do anything is how you do everything.
Right.
Right. So therefore, like, one of the things that you want to focus on is definitely like focusing on those jobs that are going to pay you a lot of money, that are going to go ahead and give you the most contribution to your business.
Yeah.
And they're going to help you elevate your success a lot faster.
Yeah.
Right. That's one of the things that my suggestion would be. What's a day like for me today? It's the same.
Yeah.
You know,
so you do everything in like 4-hour blocks.
Absolutely.
And
or
in
like
those 4-hour
even
blocks.
3-hour blocks, right?
Yeah.
Like for example, for me, right after this, I've got an event that I'm going to.
Yeah.
Right. I'm here in Hollywood. You know, this is down the street in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, okay, so from this time to this time, this is what I'll be doing. After that, I take off at this time because I've got something to do right afterwards.
Right.
Even if it's fun stuff, I would actually tell you, because a lot of people that I've been talking to want to have, for example, meditation be part of their lives. But the problem that they don't have is that I don't know when to do it. I'm so busy. And I'm like, why don't you schedule it the same way you schedule an appointment, the same way you schedule this, and you honor that. Most people don't honor their times of the things that are actually important, and they're so busy, right? The reality of it is the fact that we were conditioned since we were very young to live like this.
Yeah.
Right. When we were little, we had to go to school from like this time to this time. It was a facility that we had to go to.
Yeah.
We had to ask permission when to go to the bathroom.
Yes.
When to get a hall pass. We got a permission when to go to lunch.
Yeah.
Right. We had to have an authority that we listened to. This system did so well training us how to be followers.
Exactly.
Right. How to actually go ahead and be in that system. So I'll tell you this: the hardest thing to do that I've known is turn an employee's mentality into an entrepreneur's mindset. That is the hardest thing you can do, and it takes years because of the fact that I call them, recovering employees, right? And we just have to, elevate and teach that mindset how to go ahead and think differently.
Yeah, and not everybody has that entrepreneur mindset.
Yeah.
So if you were to evaluate and you looked at 100 people, out of 100 people, how many of those 100 people do you think are great entrepreneurs or could be potentially a good entrepreneur?
I think that entrepreneur, when it comes to how many people can actually be an entrepreneur, I don't know that everybody can be an entrepreneur. And the reason why is because of the fact that most people, it's not just learning how to make money. It's not just how to master your craft. It's really understanding the volatility that you have to go through to become successful in any business. And that's what most people don't know.
Yeah.
Like you hear all this concept, you see all these memes on Facebook and everywhere, right? What it takes to be successful. But the reality of it is the fact that very few people will do what it takes to go ahead and do that. Okay, so I'll give you my best example.
Yeah.
I was actually talking to my students about this last night. Right? Everybody has a motivation, right? In fact, my dad said this to me years ago. He says to me, and you might want to write this down, that running to be number one will never outrun running away from a tiger. What does that really mean?
Say that again.
Running to be number one will never outrun running away from a tiger. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Okay? A lot of times when we want to be number one, right? We want to have money, we want to have this and that. The truth is everybody wants it. Right? But at the same time, you got to go ahead and you don't really know how to do that most of the time, right? And you get discouraged, just frustrated, and all this different stuff. So I want you to picture there's a little mouse here, okay? And there's cheese here. I know this is a cheesy, the example.
No pun intended about the cheese.
I'll tell you, right? So this is a little mouse, and this is a big piece of cheese, okay? this cheese is whatever, right? Could be maybe a nice car, success, massive influence, whatever it is you want, whatever you want to accomplish. And you have to go through all these stairs to get it, right? You go through the first stair, maybe it's like, oh, what do your friends and family think about you? You maybe have to go through that. The second one is like maybe somebody torpedoing your company.
Right.
Or third would mean like compliance. And you have to go through all these different things. What happens with most people is that they do it, their first, they go through their first hurdle, they realize how hard it is. And at one point, that little cheese becomes less and less important, right? Because they're like, well, I don't really have to be a millionaire. I don't really have to do this, and I don't really have to do that, right? What would happen if this mouse had nowhere to go, but we put a vicious cat behind the mouse? All of a sudden, the mouse has to go all the way up. Right. He's not even motivated by the cheese anymore. Right? He's motivated by not being eaten alive, right? Exactly. By this vicious cat.
Yeah.
What I would actually ask you is, what is your cat? What is that tire that you're running away from? Because most people think about goals and it's like, a nice rainbow and pink roses. And I'll tell you this, the one thing you have to think about is yes, everybody has goals and too many people talk about goals, which is very, very important still. But the big question is, what happens to you if you don't hit your goals, right?
Yeah.
What happens to you if you actually don't do it? What happens to you if you actually fail miserably? Like, what are you going to tell your spouse? What's going to happen to you 40, 50 years from now? What's going to happen to you? Are you going to be like a one-hit wonder? Are you going to be like a person that, what's going to happen to you if you don't actually hit your goals? And too many people don't ever think about that stuff. They're just driven, they're driven by the cheese, but they're never driven by what's going to, for example, for me, I'll tell you, when I had a mentor, my mentor was not really the nicest guy. When I said to me, you have to do this, 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 and this, right? And he says, if you don't do it, we're done working together. I needed him more than he needed me.
Right.
So therefore, what I did is I did everything that he actually told me, right? The problem that most people have today is the fact that they think this kind of things are optional, right? Like, for example, this whole 4 hour a day thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's not optional. You have to do those things that I'm talking to you about, otherwise it doesn't happen. Right?
Follow a system.
Absolutely.
A plan, yeah.
And that's what most people don't do is that, people, I remember years ago that used to be like a common thing where it's like power is knowledge, applied knowledge. That's what's going to go ahead. My buddy, I have a good friend of mine that I admire a lot, Big Mike, and he actually talks about this a lot, right? He's like, applied knowledge is what's power, right? And that's one of the things that all those things I see and I implement that in my business as well.
All right. So then talk to me about what you're doing now, because you are embracing a new company that you just started.
Yep.
And that's all I know. So take me to the next step of it and to let people know how they can potentially get involved with it.
Cool.
Yeah.
So the one thing that right now one of the things that I saw is, in one side I saw the whole self-development world, right? You go to like an event, you go to a seminar or whatever, and very few people actually change their lives. Why? Because of the fact that they go back to the regular environment, the regular relationships, regular jobs and stuff like that. And unless you have the vehicle, you couldn't really make it work, right? Or you couldn't really change or have a transformation. In the other side, you have all these different companies out there that are trying to get you to sell their products, right? Do this and that. So, and what happens is kind of like what I was saying earlier, is that most people don't know how to become an entrepreneur because they've been employees most of their whole lives, right? And so therefore what we do is I've actually gathered a lot of my close friends, millionaires, billionaires, best-selling authors, just serial entrepreneurs, brought them up to my house in Hollywood Hills. And we started a series of interviews, videos, where I do them. And I actually teach you exactly what I did, step by step, exactly what I did to become successful in this industry. Not only that, but you actually get to learn and you have practical application of finance. Once you start with our company, we give you an executive coach, 24/7. There's not even charge for this stuff, okay? There's, they only have to pay for their membership fee and all this different. It's not like, they don't pay for coaching or any of that stuff. However, because of the fact that I want people to understand that you're in business for yourself, but never alone. So this person that is a lot more knowledgeable will teach you, coach you, will teach you how to get licensed, will do all those things with you, and then you guys split your commissions, you guys start working. And what we do is an incubator, where what we do is we teach people how to become financial coaches in our company, right? And then we get them making money in a period of just a few weeks if they actually let us help them. What we do for our clients is, see, the reality of it is that you've interviewed so many people already, I've seen, and you've been in business long enough, you don't need a guy like me to tell you that people that make a lot of money, people that make millions of dollars, do not have the same type of investments, insurance, retirement plans, savings accounts than the middle class do. It's a completely different ballpark.
Yeah.
All we do with our company, all we do to teach our executive, our coaches and our wealth coaches for our clients is we teach our clients what the ultra wealthy have been doing for decades. Where it's not new, but it's new to them because stuff that they've never seen. There's people don't know that there's plans out there that are tax-free. People don't know that there's actually programs out there where your money can be guaranteed, right? There's plans out there where you don't have to pay penalties. Listen, even as a simple 401k, most people don't even know that it's actually a tax code created by the IRS. Right, people are investing their money into this and something else. And I'd actually tell you this: our company, what we do is we teach people how to do these plans itself and what the ultra wealthy have been doing till today. And that's why our guys have a good closing ratio, because of what we teach our clients.
So we're talking about the ultra wealth and the people that have been there, like the Rockefellers, like the Kennedys, like all the big wealthy families. And what you've done, just so that I can dissect what you've done, is you've not only discovered what they are, but then bringing them to the average person.
Yep.
Showing, and I'm not saying average by being average, but we're talking about the not
anybody
so
that
wealthy.
has a high net worth.
Exactly. That wants to create that wealth, and through some financial vehicles and financial services, this is what you're teaching inside of your system.
Yep.
Cool. So where will we find out more information about your company?
People can actually go to elitehathaway.com, and what we'll do is you can go ahead and learn about us, see what it is that we're doing. At the same time, you could also go ahead and see if you can qualify for a free assessment, where we'll give you a full access to education and knowledge that you need to know for free, as far as what the ultra wealthy have been doing for a long time. And you can get access to that at elitehathaway.com.
Well, that's awesome. Well, very cool. It's always interesting meeting with you and talking with you. And by the way, if you're not following him, go follow him on social media, because every time I see him, he's either getting in a jet or out of a jet, or in a location or out of a location all around the world. Is really fun. His home's right here. I mean, he lives here in North Hollywood area, right?
Hollywood Hills.
Hollywood Hills area. This place he called home, but he isn't here very much because you see him everywhere. He's either at an endless pool somewhere or wherever. So follow him on social media. We'll put the information on the bottom there as we go reach him here. But really interesting talking with you.
Man, I appreciate it.
And we're going to see you at one of the seminars coming up too.
Absolutely, man. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much.